Awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Cami. And thank you again, everyone, for being here today. We are excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Oh my goodness, I love this so much. It's like my favorite topic to talk about and some of my favorite people ever. I'm Cami Griffiths, the Executive Director and Co-Founder of Community Tech Network. We're a nonprofit that's been around almost 14 years. I'm a co-founder. And this was a topic that I was working on before people even knew it was a topic. So I'm so happy. I mean, I'm sad there was a pandemic, but I'm happy that it caused us all to really think about digital equity. So this is a really important conversation that I hope many of you leave with some ideas on how to improve how you're connecting your own community members, perhaps your family members or others that might not be connected. I also want to let folks know this is part of Digital Inclusion Week, which is something that the National Digital Inclusion Alliance cooked up a few years ago. I am a board member of the NDIA, so I'm a huge fan, which is another reason why I wanted to do a webinar for this week. So I just put a link in the chat to Digital Inclusion Week. Lots of cool activities happening around Austin for this week. And lastly, I want to make sure everybody knows about the Digital Empowerment Community of Austin, known as DECA, and we meet by video chat every 2 weeks. The next call is on the 20th at 2 p.m. So I'm going to put another link in the chat that can give you some information about DECA and that calls that we do, which is really a great way for us to all check in with each other and see who's doing what where, share resources, and get to know each other better. So with that, I want to turn it over to my fabulous co-presenters here. They're each going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump into the conversation. So Paula.
Cami, thank you so much, and thank you Mission Capital for give us this opportunity to be here. My name is Paola Silvestre. I'm the Director of Family Pathways at United Way for Greater Austin. We focus on financial stability for families, but today I'm representing the 2Gen Coalition and the Success by 6 Coalition, pretty much over 300 organizations. And I just wanted to say that communities benefit from having internet access, because in order to participate in educational opportunities, access services, jobs, fun, families need access to broadband devices and digital skills. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Griselda Valerio. I'm a Career Pathways Coordinator for Austin Community College. We offer free classes to adults who need to study and get their GED or learn English. We also offer some free career training. So like Paola said, well, these are classes, right? So since the pandemic, it's all been online, and our adult learners need to access their classes or get advising. Everything's done online. So that home internet access and devices are so important.
Hi, I'm Matt Stwicki. I'm the Youth Build Education and Training Manager at American Youth Works. And we serve students 16 to 24 in vocational and educational training. And kind of like everyone else, we were online from March 2020 all the way until August this year, which we have started to shift back to in person. But we serve opportunity youth who are getting vocational training, trying to finish up their GED, high school diploma, and definitely had a huge need to get online and a lot of struggle. So we faced a lot in helping them in learning to get online. So.
Hi, my name is Patty Sesma, or Patty Sesma. I am with Austin Urban Technology Movement, also known as AUTUM. Our mission is to bridge the gap and connect people from the Black and Hispanic communities with the tech industry. So our communities greatly benefit from internet access because they have the access to jobs, to education, just like developing technology skills, and of course, for human interaction. And thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Age of Central Texas, Central Texas nonprofit that's focused on older adults and caregivers. We have the only 2 licensed adult day health centers in the Central Texas area. And our other programs focus on early memory loss and supporting caregivers through this journey of getting older and caregiving. The reason internet access is so important to this community is because of the health equity piece associated with making sure our older adults are connected. And certainly during the pandemic, that became very important when we said, stay at home, order your groceries, get your medication online, stay connected. And then all of a sudden we realized they don't have a device or the opportunity to do so. So thank you so much. I look forward to visiting more.
Excellent. Thank you all for that. So I have 4 questions that I'm going to ask, and each speaker will add what makes the most sense for them to add. And we're just going to work through this conversation. We're going to start with understanding what their organizations went through to get staff connected, and then the kind of programming that they put online in that process. And then inevitably those who weren't connected couldn't access that programming. So what did they do to help those folks get connected? So with that, I'm going to start with the first question, and I'd like for, and I'll start with Matt. If you could share the highlights of what your organization had to do in order to get staff working remotely after the pandemic hit.
Yeah, so as a big change, you know, all of our programming has always been 100% in person. You know, the population we serve, all the materials, connections we had are all based on a hands-on training in being able to interact with a student in classroom. So I think the biggest challenge and effort that we had to do is make sure, one, every staff had a good laptop that could connect to Wi-Fi, internet, whatever they had at home, helping guide and train all our staff how to use all the different new technologies and evaluate which platforms we were going to use, evaluating between Teams, Zoom, Google Meets. So that was one big challenge. So just working with the executive team, we spent a week during spring break talking through, looking, evaluating, seeing what we needed to do to help make sure and maintain and keep people safe. From the early days, we had made the plan just to stay online since most of our students were caretakers or helping out different family members. So even during the first week of it, we had the intention of the rest of the school year was going to be online. So I think we went in to the pandemic preparing and planning. I had all my staff gather all the materials they possibly could use for 2 months of being able to work online and bring home and get the materials ready. We also had shifted our agency a few years ago to Google Gmail systems. So, and we had the luxury of having everyone already in Google Calendars and Google Classroom, which is a huge benefit to our agency in really being able to connect and keep students working with whatever device they were on. So I think for getting staff online, most of our staff were pretty prepared for being online, but there were still some challenges of case managers, people who needed to catch a student or catch people in line to learn new techniques of how to call, how to reach out, how to get a hold of a population that doesn't answer our calls, a population that screens our calls out. How do we connect with them when we are used to just grabbing them out of the classroom and pulling them in and having a conversation? So I think there was a big transition of making sure we were communicating very well. And it led to a lot of extra meetings, and we had to learn how to balance everyone's time without getting Zoom burnout. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges we were learning early on, is just the burnout part of it all, and just how to make sure we're still connecting with all our participants as we transition, because they felt lost, and staff didn't know how to get a hold of most of them, because our population tends to be transitory, so they tend to move around a lot and not have a permanent place to go. So, but for the most part, our staff was set up and ready.
Great. Thank you, Matt. So of the other speakers, what more? Because that's very comprehensive how the system, and it sounded like you guys were kind of already there. So who else has a story that maybe like was a little bit clunkier and you had to overcome a bigger barrier?
I am happy to share a couple of stories, but I also wanted to just send my love and gratitude to the frontline staff who did not have the option to work from home, or childcare centers, food pantries, organizations that support families experiencing homelessness, and so many others. We appreciate you for being there when it was needed the most. I think that in addition to that, I saw that many of organizations focus on creating and implementing work from home policies and procedures to make sure that staff had guidance and we were clear on the working from home expectations. I think that also, in addition to, procuring like licenses and making sure that there was equipment for everybody and providing grace and flexibility to the staff who were like working, caring for kiddos, becoming teachers, all at the same time with a global pandemic, the collective trauma of the racial inequities, like all of the things that happened. I think that it was an opportunity for our partners to create some very innovative things. One way is, for instance, that HACA work remotely was by setting up a call center for residents to reach to staff when the property managers and other staff were all working remotely. This requires staff to have like additional equipment and skills beyond their technology department was able to provide in a very short notice. Their digital inclusion program kicked in, provide them with computers, hotspots, headsets, and training to set up and run a call center in less than 1 month. They also operated the call center with extended hours, requiring staff to work early and later than normal. So that was really, really amazing. The partner support specialists at AISD really enhanced their social media and TV usage to communicate with families. Many phone calls, a lot of like outdoor services. Austin Voices did thousands of door-to-door checks because they could not reach many students. Avance did this, created this really cool platform called Avance Sobre Ruedas, which had like pre-recorded content to send to families using easy and accessible format, and that required them to train teachers and support how to create videos using their phones and uploading them online, something that Goodwill also did. They started using Zoom to provide synchronous learning, and that required them to create best practices on what to do on Zoom, not only educate the clients, but the teachers themselves. And their team spent hours practicing for their Zoom classes to ensure the transitions were very smooth and that everyone has a chance to provide individual feedback to make the content fun and engagement. So I think that there was a lot of creativity and it was like amazing because basically happened overnight and staff changed day to night to provide the services for families.
Excellent. Thank you, Paula. So that is we're going to be digging more into programming. All of that is amazing. I'm like, ooh, I didn't know half of this stuff. Thank you. So one last, if others have more to add about getting your staff online, I mean, at this point, everybody has been working from home for over a year. But are there other little nuggets that folks want to share about? Yes, Griselda.
Right. I also remember that you were hoping to get an example of maybe a challenge that we worked through, right? So one thing I would like to add is that as we were moving our staff online, while the phone part went kind of smooth for remote phone calls, we have adults that, work during the day, and so they need to reach us at night. So we're noticing that, we're missing calls, but well, what do we do, right? So we decided to investigate a chat support feature that would also allow them to leave a message if they contact us over the night. So we experimented with a couple of things, and we found My Live Chat offered a free basic service that was just enough for what we needed. So we could have one office person like devoted to the chat and the message responses, while others could man the phone calls during the day. We could respond back to students back that way, although that was a learning curve too, right? There's just learning the system, learning like the pitfalls of communication that way is just a little bit different. And so how do we like front load questions so that we can get to the reason that they're here for and help them more quickly? How do you deal with 2 different chats coming in at the same time? Right, so that was a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm glad that we were able to work through it. In fact, we're still offering that live chat in addition to the phone calls, and now we're starting to have in-person support nowadays. So I think the live chat is still going to be a feature since it was used, and now we have the ability to offer that. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat though, in case
I
anyone
think
wants to
that's
take a look at it.
great. I love that, because my question, I was thinking, are they going to keep doing this? Because what a great idea. Patty.
I want to share what Autumn did because I think it's very powerful. We were already working remotely. Most of our staff is Austin based, but we also have people working from New York and Dallas. So the pandemic didn't really impact our daily operations, but when it comes to in-person events or in-person activities, one of them being wanting to give out devices or device distribution to the community was a challenge. It was definitely, there were struggles there. We had to become very careful and kind of like turn those events into a safety operation. But the pandemic didn't stop us. And I do want to highlight that we were able to transform this challenge into a big opportunity because we became virtual. And by becoming virtual, we started seeing very significant growth potential for the reach of our events. So we were starting to attract people from all over the world. We were able to actually meet people from Indonesia. We have Automites from Indonesia, and we had events that actually people from London attended. So it was a challenge turned into an opportunity. So the pandemic didn't stop Autumn from doing what we do.
That's excellent. So we're going to dig in deeper into how we got folks connected because there's so much more to discuss about that option. But now I want to transition, and Susanna, I'm going to ask you to start us off to talk about your programming and how you got it online, what went into getting it online.
Yeah, that was, we went pretty much from, face-to-face programming to virtual in a blink of an eye. And it sounds like just about everybody else had the same opportunity. For us, with the older adults and caregivers that we deal with, the social isolation piece is really the battle. And that is because the emotional, mental health and physical health implications associated with it, which is equal to, believe it or not, smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's the health implication of being socially isolated. So because also we serve folks in early memory loss and others that are progressing further in the disease, we really have to think about how we shifted engagement from the face-to-face programming, which we were 100% face-to-face, and shifted to virtual, and making sure that these individuals really understood that what they were seeing on now a big computer screen, hopefully at home. So we began offering daily virtual activities for our folks attending both the Adult Day Health Centers and Memory Connections. Everything from bingo to dance to you name it. What we were trying to just replicate the programs that we were offering with our face-to-face piece. And some folks were able to do it, some were not. We had caregiver conferences and seminars. We moved them online to webinars. And what we found is actually a lot of growth in participation in those particular opportunities, and just intake in uptick. That's the word I'm looking for, in registrations outside of the Central Texas area. We actually had folks that were participating in from other states. We moved caregiver support groups to an online format as well, and that actually, though you lose something with that piece, it really did at least give folks an opportunity for engagement. And then we were creating online curricula for our caregiving trainings as well. So one of the things that we had to do obviously was teach people when we selected Zoom how to get on the Zoom. So really creating good simplistic directions on how to make that happen. We had folks taking some of our classes on smartphones, which if you think about what you're looking at right now on your screen, if you consider the fact that you're looking at someone's face or the materials that is about the size of your small fingernail, that is not really the best case scenario for you to be doing that. So, you know, we really had to work the problem one person at a time in some instances, depending on what their technology background was and what their technology device was. So with that, we were able to continue to move folks through the discomfort of understanding and working technology to ability to actually participate in and continue to do trainings in our programs.
Excellent, thank you. And Griselda, if you could share what ACC, how they transition their coursework online.
So first off, since ACC is already sort of spread out in the Austin area, we've always been trying to push the envelope of how much we can move online. So that did give us a little bit of a head start. Though at the beginning, we did sort of panic a little bit in that we offered so much training for everything, for Google Meet, for Google Classroom, for Blackboard, for Zoom. It was crazy. So we found, you know, this was a little overwhelming to our teachers. And then we're going to ask our students to sign up, and one class has Zoom and one class has Google Meet. No. So we made a decision, and the whole college, in fact, you know, it just said Blackboard is going to be the preferred method. It has the video chat built in. It's got the learning management tools built in. There's polls built in. So it seemed to be the best choice of all three for everybody as a whole to favor. And then we started creating videos that, you know, when we get a student registered, we would send them a welcome email with a video showing them what to expect. And of course, we had training for our teachers, not only on how to use the tools, but on like what are some best practices, right? Remember that some students are calling in. Not some people are meeting on their cell phone, and some people do have computers, right? So kind of balancing what you're going to do, but also trying to think about how you can engage them, because we're used to engaging in person where we're, you know, passing out kits and materials and manipulatives, grouping in different ways. It's different when we're doing grouping online, and engagement has a different face also. In fact, one of the tools that I became very happy with is Nearpod.com, because there's a lot of tools in there, and you can share the link, and you can use Blackboard as your video, or any video chat as your way of connecting. But then you create a presentation with built-in tools or games. You could even put a website in there and have the students interact. And then you as the teacher get to see real-time like feedback. So it's just like we're sharing information here. Our teachers, our trainers did the same thing and shared what worked for them, what they liked, and everyone benefit overall. And I think that these are things that we're going to continue to take with us, because we're going to continue to offer some classes online, of course. And these are great tools that we're going to continue to pass on.
Fantastic. And all those little nuggets, I love you shared it in the chat already. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Patty, you already mentioned how you brought some of your live programming or in-person programming virtual. Do you want to add more to that?
Yes, I actually would like to talk a little bit about what Autumn did to help all Texans to have internet access or devices throughout all these challenging times. So in order for us to achieve the mission of helping Texas in greatest needs for technology education and internet access, we as an organization partner with other organizations to launch a regional campaign that was basically targeting low-income, underserved, and underrepresented communities. This campaign is called Texas Technology for All, and it's actually still open. You can find it at change.org. I'm going to share the link in a minute. And this campaign, basically, it has three main components. The first one is we want to provide internet access to these targeted communities. The second one is we want these communities to have technology devices, so we want to provide those to them. And the third thing is we want to upskill and reskill these communities for them to transition into the technology industry and apply for jobs in technology. So I do have some some data that I want to share because I want you to know how far we have come with this or through this petition. So far, Autumn has been able to provide 300 computers. More than 15,000 families have now internet access and devices. These are big, encouraging news that I love to share. We have exposed over 2,000 individuals to technology opportunities. We have provided training to over 130 families. We have established more than 30 partnerships that include service providers such as AT&T and Spectrum. And we have raised $1.4 million to accomplish our mission. And we know that this is only the beginning. And we want everyone to get involved with us to keep helping get people and families connected.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really inspirational. Matt, I'm going to pass it over to you now. If you could share how you got your programming online or what went into it.
Yeah, I think this was one of our hardest parts of our getting the preparation for the pandemic. You know, I mentioned that our staff was a little easier, but our students and participants in our programming had a much harder time with having the correct devices, the correct equipment, the ability to the internet. And I mentioned that a lot of our students are potentially living and being very mobile with where they're coming. So one of the biggest challenges for us first was making sure everyone had the correct equipment that could allow them to be online. And we did that through a variety of partnerships. One was with Autumn. I think we got 30 computers from you all during that. And we got another 30 from the city of Austin, because we also partner with the city. As in my training program, IT training, we partner with the city and we actually help them refurbish computers that they give out to the community. And so I know we're going to share that link too. So if you're looking for accessing computers, the city of Austin has a recovery and donation program that we got a lot of our devices. But most of those devices still weren't even ready. We had to get webcams, we had to get Wi-Fi. We partnered with T-Mobile, and we got a mini number of grants. Our agency went grant crazy and tried to find as many different grants as we could possibly get to help support get our students online. And we are actually pretty successful in getting laptops and devices throughout our time. Programming wise, it's very hard to teach a couple of our programs through virtual. Everything we do is more of a hands-on based training program. And so we go from, you know, mini classroom lessons, and then we do hands-on projects. So going to a part where you can't do much hands-on was, I think, the biggest struggle. And we were, I have AmeriCorps assistants and participants in our program that helped us. We put together care packages. We got all the computers and devices, and we made a plan early in April that year to get everyone up to the school one by one and as safely as we could possibly do, to give out care packages for them to be online, even just daily supplies that they might need to feel comfortable getting and being on camera. So one was just getting the technology, getting all the materials. We usually provide everything: notebooks, pens, papers, anything they could possibly use for classroom. Another challenge, a lot of them said they didn't need it. Oh, I have a device. Most of them didn't have the correct devices. Mobile, they think mobile works well with this online platform. It does not. So slowly learning that and trying to convince a student, hey, I have a free laptop for you. Seems not that hard, but it took us a lot of time to get students, and we had to send case managers out to their houses and literally drop them off. And we had to do so many trainings on how to get on and access. So I think that was our biggest challenge in there. As a program, we were using Google Classroom already. So our staff were doing that, but we also work with service. Like, we do this hands-on. Construction is almost impossible to teach just through a computer. You can learn all the concepts you need, but if you don't actually put a hammer on a nail, it doesn't feel the same. So we had to provide kits and think of different projects that we could do to provide and send them so they could do the learning online. And I think that was our biggest thing, is getting the materials that every class was ready for to do it. Another big thing we do GED testing. most of our population are working on their GED. Almost all centers had shut down during this time, but luckily enough, I had just completed March 4th, the process for our program to be a authorized Pearson VUE center. And so I was one of the only places that actually would come in once a week, meet 2 students only ever, and allow people to test. And I think for the first 6 weeks, we were one of the only people that had any graduates across the state in the program. And I think that was something that was really important to me, is making sure there was some, not just being online and learning, that they actually had something beyond the online. So you can learn all you want, but you have to still be able to come in. So we tried to provide one day here where we could meet 1 or 2 students up at the site and still work with them, teach them, help them connect where they were struggling. I think that was our biggest challenge in everything, is just getting everyone skilled up for being online.
Right, so it sounds like you didn't put your programming online until you understood how your population was able to participate, since many of them had marginal connectivity.
Yes, and we took about 2 weeks to figure that out early on. We took an extra week and just spent time connecting, surveying, and calling and texting them all. And as a program, I do a lot of computer refurbishment. We work with the city, so I had some in stock, but not everything was ready for students, and not all of them knew how to even use a computer, right? Most of our populations are doing nothing. Sorry, we have automated lights. Most of our students are, I'd say 70% are only using mobile devices. So using a mouse, using a keyboard are very different for them now than growing, like me growing up. I never used a mobile device. So I think that was a big challenge for them, is just learning how a desktop or a laptop works.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get to Paula to get her take on if there's any programming of your partner agencies that you want to highlight, that how they brought them online.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to also say that at United Way for Greater Austin, we partner with Austin Community Foundation, and we raised $7.7 million for the All Together ATX Fund. And we intentionally prioritize resources for digital equity and inclusion. So as a result, about $2 million were given to nonprofits in Austin and the surrounding counties to tackle digital divide in a systemic way. And that translated in thousands of families accessing internet, laptops, iPads, digital skills with unrestricted funds. So we give it to the organizations. They're very quickly assess the needs of their clients. I know that investor a lot of time supporting navigating clients' technology issues, right? Helping somebody to just use the mouse, like Matt was saying. We did also, as a systemic level, in our coalition meetings, we shared a lot of the resources. We compile the resources. We have quarterly meetings. We provide trainings for participants.
Okay, it's not me, sorry. We've lost her. Can people hear me? Yes, I see other people moving. Okay, she'll come back to us very soon. But I'm going to move on to the next. Everyone's wanting to get this question answered. So we're going to jump right into this question, which is programming made its way online. Staff got online, programming got online, and now there's clients who need access. So how do you help them get online? And Matt was saying how they kind of did things in tandem, which makes sense, but others were kind of this, I saw it a very sequential. So, Patty, I'm going to ask you to jump in and share a little bit more, because I know you guys were really heavily involved along with United Way in getting devices out, helping with internet. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, like I mentioned, we were, our programming is our programs basically include all these types of help or assistance to the community. And we do offer, like, for example, the device distribution. This is something that the programming department does so beautifully and so perfectly well. We are able to contact and reach out to people that or communities and families. Well, they actually reach out to us. There are a lot of forms and ways to contact us in our website, which I will share the link in a minute. They contact us through filling our needs assessment form, or I don't know, the contact form, join autumn form, many forms that can actually get them involved with our mission. And basically, if we know that someone is in need of devices or internet access or any other resources, because we offer a lot more than just that, right? We offer all the wraparound services, including internet access devices, stipend. Of course, we offer certification, certificates, orientation, mentorship, so many things, because our goal, more than just providing devices and internet access, is for people to be able to get the skills and the education they need to get certificates or certifications to be able to jump into the technology world and thrive in it and become self-sustainable and have just success working in any job of their dreams in the tech industry. So to answer your question, Cami, we offer a lot of ways for them to contact us so we can provide with them. And we're very, very happy to say that every single week, we are able to touch people through our mission and to accomplish our goals by helping families and individuals to get trained and to start a journey of basically changing their lives.
Yeah, excellent. And so Paula, welcome back. Sorry that your broadband is working against you. But I moved on to the question about getting folks connected, and Patty was sharing some of the things that they did to provide devices and connectivity. I know that United Way did as well. So maybe you could talk about that. What are some of the things that you or your community members did for internet access devices? And then inevitably we have to talk about training. Like Matt mentioned, some people didn't actually know how to use the computer. So if you could touch on any three of those.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure how much people heard, but I share about the Altogether ATX and the funds that we directly put in hands of people. So thousands benefit from not just a couple of people, just thousands in a more systemic way. And our partners did a lot of innovative and creative things to provide supports to staff. So Foundation Communities created those telehealth stations at each property with a computer, so residents could access various appointments that shifted to telemedicine and provided one-on-one assistance that they sit with people, help them grow into that piece. Avance was able to provide every family with a tablet with internet. And additionally, each family received individualized support over the phone to help them start an account. You have to put your email, learn the basics of navigating and operating the devices that they get. How is the safety piece? They partnered with Latinitas and Austin Freenet to provide ongoing training and support to families and list. And we compile a lot of lists and share them with resources in the community.
Fantastic. I love that you have the perspective of all these different agencies. It just shows how much the ecosystem has been impacted by United Way and then the greater giving community. Suzanne, if you could talk about what you all did to help your community get online.
Yeah, I tell you, I love the creativity that's being expressed by everyone that's speaking. AGE is part of a collaborative called Aging Services Council, which is nonprofits and for-profit organizations that also work in the aging space. And so obviously we identified very quickly that the digital divide was a critical issue for the aging population. Because we did tell them to stay at home and all those things that we're asking them to do online. And many of them didn't have internet or a digital device. They may have had a phone just for emergency purposes only. So a group from the Aging Services Council split off, and we called ourselves a Social Inclusion Task Force. And we worked to address this issue. How can we get our older adults connected and a digital device in their hands? And out of that conversation and brainstorming, the Senior Connect program was born. Senior Connect really is because of the Community Tech Network, because of Kimmy, what she brought to the table in her experiences in the Bay Area. There's a program called Home Connect that she had already developed. And so we took that model and really created a program that became a digital learning platform for older adults. And what it does is it provides a 10-inch tablet for each individual, 5 hours of virtual training with a digital coach. We help them get connected to low-cost internet, because a lot of times you have to have the internet in order to be able to get connected. So the tablets, if they didn't have internet, came with a SIMS card to get them started. They got a learner booklet, which walked through all of the really curated training modules that they would go through. And then after they went through their 5 hours of training through those modules, they would go through, if they wanted to learn how, for instance, to order groceries online, they could do that through a volunteer coach and spend up to 12 hours with that individual working through what was next for them. So far we have trained over 100 adults learners in the Senior Connect program in the Central Texas area. And post surveys, and this is where I think the most important part is really points to the fact that they have life-changing new skills and have made new connections that keep them engaged both mentally and emotionally in the community. So it's been a real amazing success.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we get to hear the success stories and people just raving about the program. I mean, they sometimes think it's a scam because they're like, why are you helping me? Which means like, it makes me feel so thankful that we're in a place where we can help people in this way. So Griselda, tell us how ACC helped your disconnected students get connected.
So we did have something set up through the college that students could apply to borrow an iPad. So it didn't really solve the problem of internet access, though it turns out that a number of our students did have some kind of internet access. It wasn't always the fastest, right? It wasn't always, but we did have a few examples where students with unlimited maybe cell phone data were using their cell phones as a hotspot, so they got really resourceful. Though I do think that the iPad borrowing helped a lot, right? It did give students more of a screen to look at the classes, and it had, the apps that they would need to work for school. Another thing that was a little bit unexpected, and why not a lot of our students ended up needing that. Some did. We did help many students with this, by the way. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and share the website to the Student Technology Services, so you can see how they aggregated information for students and how they could borrow the iPads and get tech support. Maybe they had a computer, but they didn't have a webcam, right? They could borrow a webcam. So that's pretty neat. But one thing that was unexpected is that, well, since our students are adults and many of them have children in AISD, the AISDs lent Chromebooks to their students, but they didn't need it in the evening or in the weekend. So some of our parents, they're like, oh, well, you log me into your computer, I'll use it for class. So it's pretty interesting that there was that side effect. And again, I'm happy for them that they were able to use that. So.
Great, thank you for that. And last but not least, Matt.
Yeah, as I mentioned a little earlier, one of the big connecting points for us was getting everyone a device. I wanted to make sure we all had standard devices so that they could access all their equipment. Autumn was one of our first places we got computers. So we reached out to them early on. So we got about 30 computers that we prepped, got ready, got ready for Wi-Fi connections, mostly all desktops, which was what I prefer for people, but I know it's hard for mobile populations to be able to utilize it. So I still found a lot of students using cell phones and not really connecting correctly. We did struggle with, like, I think a lot of people have internet at home. A lot of them don't have stable internet, but a lot don't have stable connections. Using mobile hotspots, everything. So we had to try to find ways for our participants to get stable Wi-Fi and connections for most of their places. And so we were able to, one of our grants that we were able to get allowed us to buy mobile hotspots that we prepaid for an entire year. So they had T-Mobile. Those were just great because they could take them with them wherever they were going. So it made it much easier for our students to get online. Another resource, because we did multiple enrollment periods throughout the year, we served roughly 100, maybe 120 students through this time online. And another, so we were looking for computers most of the time. One of our resources was the City of Austin. And that is I'm just posting it in there. That's their PC program. I think a lot of, we work with them. A lot of the city changes over computers every 3 years, a lot of the departments, and they donate them to a department. We help that department refurbish them and get them ready to be a PC donation, part of the PC donation program. They've been going since 2015, and we knew about them because we've been helping them for many years. And they were able to get us most of the rest of the computers that we needed to get online, but it was a constant training and teaching. And if you didn't notice a student online for a day or two, making sure I reached out, got in touch with them, what's going on. Most of the time, internet had been cut off. They lost internet because family couldn't pay it. And we had so many support services, and we were just trying to help people pay for internet so they could stay online. So that's part of our general program model, but it was very useful during the pandemic to help with the utilities and bills that really assisted them in being able to stay online. So we kind of leveraged our large network we had and already connected with to get all the devices that we needed for our students.
Great. And I'm going to share in the chat a link to a webinar I conducted, I think probably last year. Much of it's still relevant, but it has information about low-cost internet, low-cost devices, and some things to think about for basic training. So I want to be thoughtful about time. We have 6 minutes to the top of the hour. We do have, it's a 90-minute webinar, but Griselda has to leave early. So I have one final question for everyone, and Griselda, this will start with you, and then whenever you need to jump off, feel free to do so. And if folks have questions for Griselda, please put them in the chat, and hopefully she'll be able to answer them. So the final question, and then after everyone answers this question, we're going to jump into Q&A and then stay on as long as it needs to, up till 90 minutes, of course, because we all have another Zoom meeting to get to. The question is, what advice do you have for frontline staff still struggling to get their community connected?
So the first advice would be to remember that you do not exist on an island by yourself. We've already mentioned a few of the other, nonprofit community partners that have technologies out that can help connect your clients. That said, I'm going to share another website before I go called Everyone On. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not. It is one place where you can search by your zip code and certain criteria to see if you qualify for any programs that might offer discounted devices or internet connections. That said, also, if you're a program that does have something in place like iPads or laptops, if you're just struggling to connect to potential clients, just don't forget about the phone, right? I know that sounds maybe a little bit obvious, but I did find myself at some point getting a little too used to email and chat. And wait a minute, that some of these students that have a hard time maybe reaching email, and something maybe forgot a password doesn't work, you can still call them. Right. So if you have a way to call your clients, maybe it's filled out some kind of interest form, go ahead and give them a call. If they don't answer right away, try a lunch hour, try an evening hour, and the chances are you can connect enough to help them get connected to that device that you offer.
Excellent. Yeah, Everyone On is a great resource. Not only can you search by zip code, but it's showing you the low cost options that you qualify for based off of your eligibility. All right, great. And then I'm going to share a link to the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, which has a startup manual and other resources for groups that are thinking, how do I do more to get my community connected? So I'm going to ask that, I'm going to bring it back over to Patty. Any, what advice do you have?
Well, Cami, more than an advice, I would like to provide a hand. I think that's exactly what Autumn does. That's our mission. We do need to expand digital equity in order for us to accomplish what our goals. So I want to invite everyone to reach out to us, to connect with us. There are too many ways that we offer people, organizations to either partnerships or help to individuals, so we can get the community connected and provide all the help that and assistance that it's needed. So yeah, just please make sure that you get in touch with us.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind putting your email in the chat, then folks can message you. Suzanne, what advice do you have?
Well, you know, great advice already. I think I will just layer on, be creative. There are all kinds of opportunities out there, as Griselda said. For instance, you know, it is difficult to get someone on the internet if they're not already on. So having the opportunity to, you know, looking into SIMS cards to start the program that you can turn on and off. There are some headaches associated with that, but it's much easier sometimes to get them going at that, you know, using a SIMS card. But there's a lot of, I would say, funding available now, understanding where that, what the connection might be from the American Rescue Act to the CARES Act. You know, look into opportunities. And the last piece is, and I know this isn't always an easy thing to do, but to make your lives easier, using a, if you can connect with one device that you really like and be consistent with being able to deliver that device, your training becomes much, much easier.
Excellent. And Matt.
Advice. I think patience was probably the biggest thing. I think if you're not hearing from somebody, just please reach out to them. And like everyone has said, there's lots of connections and lots of agencies looking out to try to help get people online. Even still, you know, we all, like, all these programs still have opportunities, but you know, a lot of people are learning and trying to learn. We struggled with some students for months trying to get them online, but just having that patience of working through them and making sure they don't feel that it's somehow their problem with being online, and that it's okay to be learning at this time. We're all learning. I think that was one of our keys that helped our students feel comfortable with the whole process, is that it's okay to struggle through this early on and struggle with how this all works, because it's definitely new for a large portion of our population. So I think that was one of the keys. And just, you know, we were following up on a daily basis. If I didn't see someone there, to just check in, because that was important to kind of identify if they weren't getting online, there was something else going on. So that's kind of my advice on this process.
Thank you, Matt. And lastly, Paula.
Yes, I think the first thing is always ask your clients what they need and build the programming and the solutions with them. Check assumptions about clients, what clients know and they don't know at the door. For many clients, like the rest of us, their knowledge of technology depends on what they have been exposed to. And set quality expectations for your clients. Just because you don't know what you don't know, right? But just because you have an internet, everything is not fine. If you freeze, if the internet stops working all the time, if it gets really slow, that's not quality internet access. We have so many parents right now completing homework in their phones, but because they make it work, they tell us, oh no, it's fine. But the truth is that they deserve have access to all the tools they need to be successful. Partner with organizations that focus on digital inclusion and technology, let them handle the tech piece, what you can use the relationships you have in the community to get folks at the table. Partner with grants, talk to your peers, learn what others are doing. Relationship, trust, collaboration with communities keys. In our quarterly meetings, we provide space for organizations to connect with each other, to share best practices, resources, happenings, and everybody has an open invitation. So just remember that that's a space for you. And finally, I think the main takeaway is that advocacy is key. Collaborative voice leads to elevation of the issues, right? And take action from our public officials and leaders. Collect stories about your clients, success stories, horror stories, and everything in between. Get data. I know we are already asking so many people to collect data and more data, but if we want to create systemic change and bring resources to the community, people need to understand how families are experiencing the digital divide in the inequity, and that only can be done with data and with that voices from the community. So make sure that you take some time to collect those, to elevate, and I think that's the most important piece. We are always in looking for stories and looking for data so we can go to public officials and advocate in behalf of our partners.
Thank you for that. Very powerful. I have one question that came through earlier, and this is the chance for any questions, or if you have comments you want to share, please do that on the chat. So the one question that came through, I'm not sure who can answer this, but how did you establish secure transmissions of protected information to clients? I know this was a challenge for some of the agencies that CTN was working with. They were concerned about using Google Forms for sending addresses and other personal information. So anyone want to take that on?
I'm happy to share what we are doing and hear from more partners are doing. When we want to and need to collect individual level personal information, we use SurveyMonkey. We have an account, it's safer than Google Forms. And we also ask our partners and provide funds to invest in secure Dropbox. That's nothing is foolproof, but it's what we found out that is more cost efficient to get information and to store information for different organizations.
I can share, sorry, Cami.
Go ahead.
I can share just a quick answer. We do most of our forms through Microsoft Forms, and these are very secure. They're actually encrypted when in rest and in transit. So we do know that any information, any data that is given to us or provided to us through these forms we are sure that it's encrypted. So.
Great. Anyone else want to add to that question?
I think I could answer a little bit. I definitely know as an agency, we switch because we use Google a lot. We're in the process of switching to a new database, but Google has been our main kind of tracking system. I make sure all the agency has two-form authentication set up on their system. We manage that part of it all. And then, just who has access to view information is very much on lockdown in our department, and we very much, I review all our files and who has access to information, who can change or update. So Google has kind of updated a lot of ability to kind of limit viewing options. It definitely is a little bit more complex, but they do have a fairly secure system. I know the government hasn't caught up to what Google has done yet, so they don't recommend it, but it is pretty encrypted and secure.
Great. And CTN has built a web to lead form from our website into Salesforce. And so everything goes directly into Salesforce. All right, so there are no questions, just Heather shared that Bracket is an encryption tool. Haven't heard of Bracket. I'm so not a techie when it comes to some of these things. Yes,
Kathy,
Patty.
I want to share something. If the people who actually joined us today are interested in learning about, encryption and cybersecurity and all those things, I do want to share that we have an event coming up that is going to be addressing these topics right now more than before. It's important because all the spyware infection that we just went through a couple of weeks ago with all the Apple device users and with the management of our data on platforms like Facebook. So I would love it if you guys could come and join us to the Rethink Austin 2021 event. This is technology session and it's actually based on, we're going to be addressing our digital footprint and how we can feel safe in sharing information sometimes and what do we need to know when we share data. So I do think that it's a good opportunity for me to invite people to join us in this event to learn more about being careful of how they share their data with everyone, not only organizations, but in every single platform on the internet. I'm going to share the website.
Absolutely, great. And Rita from Mission Capital shared another event that's happening this weekend, Digital Equity Inclusion Town Hall. So there's a link to that in the chat. So without any additional questions, I'm going to ask the presenters if they have anything final that they would like to share. I know my last question was kind of like the last question, but maybe there's something burning that you're like, oh man, I wish I had said that. All right, so with that, I'm going to wrap it up and throw it back over to Chelsea for her to close it out. Actually, we didn't plan this beforehand, so Chelsea is like, Cami, I didn't know you were going to do that. I can also close it out and just say thank you, everyone, for taking your time to participate in this webinar. And we're going to be, it's recorded, it'll go out in the next couple of days. And if you think this would be useful for your colleagues, please do share it. And just good luck with the work that you're doing to connect your community. It's hard work, but somebody's got to do it. So it might as well be us. All right. Thank you all. Thanks so much.